I have fallen in love with life, and I'm drinking like a fountain, pouring like an avalanche, coming down the mountain. I'm Spike.
I'm Kel.
I'm Amanda, and I don't know if you want those lyrics associated with yourself.
I don't mind
Yeah.
the sun
Don't sing, if I
sometimes.
swear to God.
No one appreciates
It's a me thing.
me.
I don't like hearing people sing in my headphones. It wigs me out.
Oh, I love it. I love it. See, the thing is, that's why you couldn't fucking stand like working in the Iron Circus offices with me because, like,
Well, see, no. Amanda said in her headphones. If you were
oh,
in the office, that would be
Yeah, it's a
fine.
completely
yeah.
different
Uh,
auditory experience when, like, there's, I don't know, there's some
yeah.
distortion involved and it wigs me out.
To be fair, the butthole
Um,
surfers don't really sing so much as drone.
It doesn't matter. It is an
yeah.
auditory experience I don't enjoy.
Oh god. Well, hello everyone. Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for coming to the
Uh,
Iron Circus Geek Show number. Oh god, are we really up to 25? In case you haven't noticed, our PNG tubers are broken, but that's okay because you're here for us, not our adorable animations.
yeah. Well, you can go watch me draw at my stream
Yeah.
if you don't want to watch a still image.
Oh, they won't
Yeah.
be still.
Uh,
The gun will make a repeat. It always
I,
comes back.
I won't be, you can't watch me draw, but I am drawing because I am self-soothing and I am rewarding myself after a hard day of work. I am drawing the dumb garbage I am currently uploading to my, not my pillow fort. I'm woo.
your
What was
co-host.
what was
That
that?
was me adjusting the angle of my Cintiq. Sorry.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've mentioned it before on here. I have a pillow fort and I have a co-host, and Pillow Fort has one comic and co-host has another comic, and I have become recently extremely preoccupied in my downtime with the comic on co-host because I am a sucker for praise and validation, and people really seem to be vibing with the comic I put
Uh,
on co-host. So I am
so,
updating that one.
um, so I told y'all that I was gonna hire an assistant for social media stuff.
You did.
And thus far it's working. Like
Good.
I'm getting a lot more interaction on. So far we're just amp up to things. She's updating my Twitter, my Tumblr, and my Instagram because those are things that she already knows how to work.
Mhm.
And it's like we agreed that she will figure out co-host and Pillow Fort and all those after.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so far they've been doing good. I got a couple of sales of PDFs because of it.
Nice.
Because one of her things is to post a page of fame and misfortune on every single social media every day.
Mhm.
Um, because that came out like 10 years ago, so people probably forgot about it. But
Sure.
so people buying specifically that as a PDF is what has been happening in my store.
Mhm.
So like I assume that it is because pages are going up on social media.
Yeah.
Um,
Social media
but
does work.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's just good to know that like I'm seeing returns for my investment,
Yes.
which is great because I hate looking at social media and posting on it and everything.
For what it's worth, I don't think trying to engage with co-host in that kind of way would be very effective.
Um, I don't see why. Well, not at its current
Yeah.
state, no. But
Yeah, exactly, in its current state.
yeah.
Co-host is really nice, but it seems to be, and I'm not saying this by the way in any kind of disapproving way. If anything, I'm super duper into it. It seems to be purposely making itself as unviable in a commercial sense for use, not for execution as possible. Like they are interested in keeping it viable in the sense of keeping it up for people to use, but one for folks who don't know, co-host is unique among current social media platforms in multiple ways, and a couple of the ways it's unique is you cannot see any metrics. You cannot see
Well,
how many people have faved a post, you cannot even see how many people are following you.
Well, see, Spike, you say that, but like, what is the difference between you posting pages of your comic on co-host and me posting pages of Fame and Misfortune 10 years later on co-host? Because I just said that I got more sales in my store. I don't know which social media those sales came from.
Ooh,
I
you
just
should probably
know
fix
that
that.
I mean, I that's because it just didn't look. I could like I get an email
Uh-huh.
whenever a sale happens, but I haven't dug into the analytics yet.
Because
Because I
analytics.
was gonna wait a few months before
Uh,
really digging into the analytics.
Here's the
Yeah.
So
thing. I think co-host or a platform like for me, co-host feels like the early days Tumblr. In
Hmm.
early days like just without the obvious metrics.
Uh-huh.
And early days Tumblr were very good for me, in terms of promoting myself. Like
Elaborate. Yeah, that's
I
interesting.
that's just where all my referral every time I did a project or I sold something, that's where all my referral like I had a pretty I don't know, it just everybody here's the thing. Everybody who was subscribed to me or followed me on Tumblr was into my work and wanted to see more. I
Yeah.
don't think I
mhm.
can say the same for Twitter.
That's true. Yeah,
And I
I can
feel like
relate.
co-host has the makings of being that again. Like, no, I will probably not have the same reach I had on Twitter, but it is much more likely once it's and I think that's kind of the point too of co-host.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
you're here to follow specific people. You are not here for like, please give me a feed of stuff to keep me on this platform as long as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that like it's slow going. Obviously, I'm trying really hard to only post my art, my sketches and stuff to co-host right now, and it is definitely I'm having the brain worms of. But if I posted it on Twitter, I would get more interactions on it. I want to know what people think of the thing, and that's the problem. Is like I do want to know what people think of the thing I drew, but how do I do that and not put it on the Twitter? So
Yeah,
I'm
because and so as someone who is not actively looking at that on a daily basis, uh, like if I got her to just start posting on co-host pages, like as long as communitively or
cumulatively.
Cumulatively?
cumulatively, yes, that's the word I was looking for. Um, uh, it increases sales and people backing my Patreon and all that. Like, it doesn't matter where they're coming from as long as they're getting to the places that get me money. How
See,
Yeah.
my
I
my
mean,
hurdle is the social ones. Like I do fan art for a thing. I want to know if other people like the thing that I like.
yeah.
Eh.
Yeah, in my opinion, just and I can only this is just a vibe check, and I can only speak for co-host as it is now. I can only speak for it in the state that it is now. It seems incredibly dedicated to shit posting and nonsense and just garbage in a good way.
I don't know who you're following because I've been following people who've been treating it as a dev blog.
Really, I'm following people who have figured out a way to use CSS to make the word Beyblade spin like a Beyblade and then put two Beyblades in their post.
Yeah, yeah. No,
And
I've seen the same thing. Yeah.
yeah, so
No, but
that's
I'm
who I'm
just saying
following.
that's I'm like I follow like Allison Chabet. She's doing like basically world building and dev blog posts for a concept of hers, and it's been
Mm,
interesting. And they've been really really long, and it's been cool to follow.
yeah,
Um,
that's cool.
so I think everyone's feeling it out. I'm really just treating it like early days of Tumblr for me.
Yeah, I almost am reluctant to attempt commercializing it because quite frankly we live in this space where we're being forced by capitalism to constantly consider monetizing like every fucking aspect of everything we do just to stay alive, and it's kind of nice to have a place where there's a comic I'm posting where literally the first time in 20 years I'm not thinking about, oh, but when I publish this, what's it going to look like? I have to make sure it's the right format. I have to do this. I have to do that. And for the first time in 20 years, I don't give a fuck about
Well,
that. I'm just,
I guess the problem with for me is like I am kind of actively trying to get hired for stuff and trying
Uh-huh.
to get stuff picked up. So I'm kind of in this like twilight of I'm happy to just share stuff and not care. Ha, I'm having a good time. But also it's like ha- oh, I have committed. My reach has now been limited. Is Twitter just for like my quote unquote professional stuff? But then like what do I deem is worth you know what I mean? It's like what do I
I
deem
get
as
you.
worth sharing to my biggest platform? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I absolutely get
Yeah.
you. I get you.
And to be fair, the social media assistants, I have instructed her to make shit posts about my own
Mhm.
comics.
Yeah.
So that has been working. Cause the like basically I told her like put all the fucking hashtags on it, like as many as you think apply. Um and yeah, like you do the jokes that you want. If you see a stupid werewolf shit post, reblog it on my Tumblr, like that stuff.
Mhm.
Like, so
Yeah, I
it's
like I'm
it's more or less working.
Well,
that's good.
like for example, I'm about to be working on another Slipshine comic, and I do want to promote it. Lead in the lead up, it's like, what do I do? Do I do it on the Twitter now? Do I ignore co-host, or where am I posting this?
I think you post it everywhere.
I don't want to post it.
Oh, okay.
Pornography.
Oh, you know what I mean? Like if you have a larger
No, no,
audience
no.
on
I'm not talking about like, oh, it's ready, go read it. I'm talking about the build up to it.
well, yeah, I guess that's something you'll have to figure out for yourself.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
saying.
mean, I see a ton of porn on co-host, so that certainly isn't an
Right,
issue.
but it won't generate. That's what I'm saying. It will not. I have an active interest into funneling subscriptions.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you wanted to practice good, like good internet hygiene, good referrer hygiene, you could get a referrer link on co-host and then get one on Twitter and then just
I don't control that
pu-
stuff.
oh, okay.
It's for a site that I don't own.
All right. All right. I'm surprised that Slipshine doesn't have that.
Well, maybe they do, but like I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I'd have to look into it.
Yeah, couldn't hurt. Just a suggestion. I mean, I've established on here that I really, really like data when it comes to
Yeah,
the decisions I make. So,
yeah.
yeah,
I'm just.
yeah, and when I'm talking about like um uh metrics and whatnot for like as long as it's going up overall, like because sometimes people are not necessarily finding you directly from a thing
mhm.
because they have seen you multiple places, they remember to go get the thing later.
Yep.
Because like I said, with the social media assistant, she's not posting links because like Instagram doesn't allow links in posts.
Yeah, that's very
um
irritating.
then Tumblr, and so it's just kind of a general like continue the vibes or continue being in people's view.
Yeah, I know.
um yeah, rather than like did this directly get a thing.
Yeah, maintaining brand awareness is definitely a thing people do. Somebody in the someone in the chat is saying TikTok is getting shut
Yeah,
down.
they're in trouble.
Oh, really? Over what?
There's explicit content on there that is accessible to minors because
Yeah.
there's no kind of content. Uh, they're not reviewing
Moderation or
shit. They're not moderating shit. I think there's been information leaks. Um,
yeah, apparently if you work for the government you're not allowed to have a TikTok.
Wow. Interesting.
there's a lot going
Be-
on.
Hmm.
because there's such because there's such bad like security leaks or whatnot on there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure India has already banned them, but it's interesting to hear that they're in trouble over here again.
Yeah, and it was kind of coming because like I did a little like like a shallow dive into like TikTok live and oh, it's a hellscape.
Oh, I love TikTok Live.
Yeah,
It's a
but it's
nightmare.
but letting people browse, like letting someone like young browse it. Like I can
Yeah.
only imagine like I was browsing stuff going, if I had like a teenager browsing this idly, I would just have to take their phone away. I just like I oh my
Seriously,
god.
what's some of the stuff you saw?
Well, some of it was innocent stuff like I'm doing a live and people are sending me tips and I'll comment on it. Yay. And some people are
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I will feature your stuff." And some of it was like borderline like cam girls,
Uh-huh.
like mostly naked.
Wow.
Some of it were people telling extremely explicit stories. I saw some people screaming,
Mhm.
just screaming, like in a really concerning way. There's just a lot of stuff where it's like, and you get it all together on one feed. And I have a curated feed, right? So my TikTok has mostly gives me rats and funny children saying stupid things because TikTok has learned the things Amanda likes is rats and children saying the darndest things. But
Mm.
not TikTok Live. TikTok Live does not care about the algorithm. TikTok Live will just put porn in front of you and not care.
Yeah, I watched a video about TikTok Live recently, and it's just straight up the fucking Wild West out there.
Oh, did you see the one where about the people who were like pretending to be mad at being woken up?
Yes, like for folks who aren't aware, here is a common thing on TikTok Live where somebody will set their bed up in front of their camera and they will have a list visible on camera that says things like, car horn, donate this amount, screaming, donate this amount, fire alarm, donate this amount. And they'll have the soundboard hooked up to donation amounts. And then they will make this big scene of elaborately, coming
Let
into
me
camera
sleep.
and yeah, and lying in the bed and pretending to be exhausted and really wanting to sleep. But if you donate money, a horrible noise will play and they'll make a big deal about, oh, stop it, I'm so tired. So fucking bizarre. And there was like another thing. They're like things where imagine on a screen, it's just a very crudely drawn man and a very crudely drawn woman, and they're like playing tug of war, and there are numbers listed over their head, and the numbers are the amounts people have donated. And there's just a thing on screen that's like, what's better, men or women?
Yeah.
And it's just you donate to the man or the woman, and it's the
Yeah.
fucking garbage, superficial, lowest common denominator content you could even imagine.
We clearly saw the same video. I like
Yeah.
the fact that one of the people doing the upset videos is clearly like it was like pre-recorded.
Yes, he's not even actually doing it live when he puts it on live. It's
I
a
can't
recording
remember
of a
who did that
previous
video.
live.
Who did the video we're talking?
He's just building a card tower and then screaming and crying when people give him money for like no perceivable reason.
Oh
And not
man.
even real screaming and crying because he's got a filter on and it's glitching out every now and again. It's so dystopian and idiotic. It's shockingly idiotic. But we did watch the same video, but I also saw something different. So SoundCloud rappers, if you can imagine like a rainbow over my head and we're just SoundCloud rappers, have become a source of deep fascination for me because they have about the staying power of mayflies. The ones who don't die burn out super fast. I'm talking about a career that can be measured in months.
Well,
And what's up?
I mean, the entire like being a SoundCloud rapper is the whole idea is you are going to leave SoundCloud. If you're successful, you are going to leave SoundCloud eventually. If you
No, they don't.
fail, you are going to leave SoundCloud eventually.
Yeah, well, I'm not. When I say SoundCloud rapper, I'm not talking about literally being on SoundCloud, being part of
Oh,
it.
I
Like,
thought you okay. I was taking it
no,
very literally because
I'm talking about like rappers who were air quotes discovered and came up and gained the majority of their popularity on social media. And the thing is, people forget about these people so fucking fast. And they're left with very limited options. And some of those limited options are just being on TikTok live with their girlfriend and having a air quotes fight. And
I
the
mean,
girlfriend and the girlfriend and the rapper sit on TikTok live and they have their fight, and then they ask their millions of watchers and fans or whatever, who's right? And the donation bucket is between
TJ
the and
napkins.
whoever gets the most donations wins their fight. And it's oh my god, it's the dumbest internet imaginable. It's the dumbest
Yeah,
internet
but it gets
ever.
kids invested because that's really who's getting all
Yeah.
invested is it's kids.
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of this, it's important. Like what helps me put it in perspective is these people are children's entertainers,
Yep.
whether they admit it or not. They're children's entertainers.
Well, I mean, I
And
think yeah, they know it, or they would format their shit different. Like I've
yeah.
tweeted about it before, but almost any weird internet fad or why are YouTubers doing this, why are TikTokers doing this, almost every time it's because their audience is children. It's just
Yeah.
like that whole, oh, why are those back when everyone was doing the 3 a.m. challenges? Like, why is everyone doing 3 a.m. challenges? It's like, what is so special about 3 a.m.? It's like because most children are not allowed to stay up past midnight. And they
Yeah.
wake up later than like 5 a.m. The 3 a.m. is this magical time where you can convince them that, ooh, it's magical and eerie because they can't prove that it's not like the witching hour and shit goes crazy.
Yeah. And it makes me think again, I think I've mentioned on the show multiple times at this point, the little girl I saw at New York Comic Con at the promotion for that Mermaids mockumentary, who was just straight up staring into the tank with the performer who was wearing, her silicone mermaid tail and swimming around in the tank and being very convincing. And she was just like, "Is that real?" And, like, that's the age bracket we're working with here, a kid who thinks mermaids might be real. So, of course, they're going to believe all the garbage that happens on TikTok Live. There's just absolutely no bar there. There is no bottom. They'll believe it. And
But that's also why TikTok's getting in trouble because that's the audience, but that is who should really not be viewing half that stuff. Oops.
yeah, yeah. I did happen to notice recently that some of the ads that are playing on YouTube for me are ads that are from Instagram. And Instagram, I wouldn't say throwing shade, that would be too strong, but Instagram is definitely doing this whole thing like, "Hey there, parents.
Oh yeah,
Did
I've
you
seen those.
know?"
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, there are parental controls on Instagram where you can limit screen time on Instagram to and it has, like, a list of time amounts,
Yep.
so it's, like, 15 minutes a day
Or
up to
the
2 hours.
parents, if if it's I couldn't tell. It's either if your kid is reported for harassment or bullying, or has someone harassing or bullying them, you the parent can get alerts about it.
Yeah, yeah. It's good. I mean, I'm all for
I
those fucking tools,
It's
but
good, but also there are some parents who are going to be.
oh, for sure.
Yeah. That's
Inevitably.
like that's like the parent getting a tracking thing on the kid's phone.
Yeah.
Like
Like, yeah, there's totally a world. There's totally.
there's totally legit reasons to do that, but then there's also like shitty reasons to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's how it is.
You'll have parent A who is just doing it to make sure, okay, they made it to school, I'm good, and then parent B who is
Or
like,
like
Yeah.
you did.
parent A who is like teenager is not dead in a ditch past midnight. Like
Mhm.
uh
Yeah.
they are where they said they would be.
Well, Casey says he's on Family's Plan for YouTube Premium, and it's chill not to see those ads. I see those. I got a Roku TV recently, so I've been watching a lot of free Roku TV. I've been watching mostly Retro Crush. I've been watching a
Mhm.
lot of old anime that I missed as a teenager. Anyway, that's where I see. I never used to see ads, but now I watch that, and I refuse to subscribe to any more things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been seeing lots of ads out of suddenly, and it's like, oh, these are what ads are like. I
Yeah, I have ads on the television in my home. I do not have ads on the desktop in my home. So,
mhm.
I recently stopped subscribing to a couple of things because I was just realistic with myself. I'm like, "How much Hulu have I watched this year? How much Crunchyroll
See,
have I watched
that's
this
why
year?"
I rotate them each month. Like
Yeah.
I'm mooching off my family.
Hooray, it's the American way.
um but
Yeah,
yeah,
I
it's
was. I watched.
cuz like you said, Spike, how much Hulu, how like there's only so much TV I can watch in a month,
Yeah.
and if I haven't been subscribed to a thing for a couple of months, the things on it that I'm interested in have, like, built up.
Yeah.
Um, so that's why I do, like, this month, I will be subscribed to Netflix. Next month, I will be subscribed to Hulu.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I'm just mooching off my parents because they have an account with everything, and they were just like, "We'll give you our passwords and stuff." Like, okay. I have not used any of them because I just don't have an interest in anything. The only thing I've been watching since I got a TV is, yeah, Alan Lord, Retro Crush is the best. Basically, Retro Crush is basically it's all old anime,
Uh-huh.
like from everywhere from like the 80s to the early 2000s, and I'm really enjoying it because they have two versions. One's like a TV station that's just always playing, it'll play blocks, and the other is more like a Netflix where it's on demand stuff. And I've
Mhm.
been really enjoying letting the TV version play because will just be casually catching stuff and going, "What the hell is that? I want to watch more of that." And I've been able to like jump into new stuff that probably came out when I was a broke ass teenager and couldn't buy
Mhm.
that stuff when it came out. So I've been
mhm.
catching stuff and it's been really cool. I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah.
I it's the reason I have now caught up and watched all of the 12 Kingdoms,
Oh.
which is very good and has a very good rat man.
Yeah, I've seen that one, it's pretty good. I like that people are born from trees in their world. Um,
Yes.
Hmm.
Very
uh,
interesting.
Yeah, what I've been watching lately, I haven't really been watching. I mostly am working, and so I c I have 2 things I favor when I am working, because when I'm working, 9 times out of 10, I cannot actually look at the screen, and so I go for really, really visual stuff or documentaries. And so I only recently, because I'm a grandma, noticed on Audible that there aren't just audiobooks, you can also track your podcast through there. And since I work through my desktop, it's just a lot easier for me to do it on my desktop as opposed to my phone. And so I have been re-listening to a lot of a podcast that I super enjoy and highly recommend if you have Audible, and even if you don't have Audible, called Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. And we are talking 5-hour plus long podcast talking about major historical events, and I fucking love it. One of my favorite ones is about the start of World War One, because the start World War One, I'm sure a lot of us already know, had
Never
a
heard of it.
very, very Keystone Cops, very yakety sax kicking off, and
yeah.
it was kicked off by, surprising no one, stupid fucking teenager. And one of
Uh,
the more unfortunate things about this stupid fucking teenager is that after he was imprisoned, he died very quickly. He got sick and died. And so he never got to see the unspeakable horror he had wrought with his assassination of the Archduke. And that's kinda sad. And Dan kinda talks about that, talking about how we have this perception of history being changed by one man usually, very often, and how
mhm.
9 times out of 10, that is not the case. However, in this case, that is absolutely the case. History was changed by one man who never got to see it go down.
Well, I think that sometimes, like you're talking like great man theory of history versus more communicative great
Yeah, exactly.
version of history. Yeah. And so, well, I do think like individuals do have big effects on history, but it is less like great man random individuals and more like it's for want of a nail type stuff.
Mhm.
Um uh, but it's just that in the case of the assassination of the Archduke, that for want of a nail did actually have the big impact or whatever.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. Because I feel like World War II would have gone down very differently if Giuseppe Zangara successfully killed FDR because he thought the president was magically giving him a stomach ache. Um,
Well, yeah,
like,
that
yeah. So it's stuff like that. Like, I understand the argument. Um, why I feel like I understand why it's bad to get in the trap of great man view of history, whereas I
Mhm.
feel like more for want of a nail is a better uh looking glass at history rather than attributing
See ya,
it all
Casey.
Bye, Casey.
to supposed like movers and shakers of history or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of history is extremely reductive, and one of the things I've mentioned on here before is it's extremely modern, as in the last 100 years. The expectation that historians and chroniclers do their best to maintain total unbiased impartiality. That was not the case at all for the vast majority of human history. And so we, if we're not careful, can fall prey to that great man model because history was you conquered a province and you erected a obelisk or a column or a statue. And on that statue, it said, Augustus Caesar came here in this year and he peed all over you and you fucking loved it. And you said, more daddy. And he said, no.
Blech.
That's what would go up. Like fucking Ramesses making 4 statues of himself in a mountainside, all talking about how big his dick is and how amazing he is. That was
Yeah.
history. And so if you buy the propaganda, because that's what it fucking is, it's propaganda, you can very easily be susceptible to that image of, oh, Julius Caesar did this, Ramesses the Great did this, the first emperor of China
Um,
did this, you know.
what's interesting on the topic of like Roman emperors making monuments about how awesome they are. Um, on the one hand, yes, that is what they're doing. But also, I was reading an interesting thing about when stuff is on, when an economy is based on like gold or something that is like a unique thing that you cannot just decide there's more of,
Mhm,
like our money today. Um,
mhm,
deflation became a huge problem. So a lot of the emperors that like for whatever reason did a shit ton of like public works or had monuments built, um a lot of the time that was just to like help with deflation because oh, the government has too much money and we better spend it on something because now people can't buy bread because we have all the gold rather than the people.
yeah, and the American
Yeah.
government has done similar shit. That's how a lot of dams and
Yeah.
roads got built in the US after the Great Depression.
Yeah. Um and so I just think it's funny that like all those monuments that are like my dick is so big.
Yeah.
Spike can't
But
do
at the
drunk
same time he
history. She's
was
straight edge.
I can't, I'm not straight edge, ew, ew, ew.
But you are.
I'm not. I actually do consume alcohol, except it's cooking.
That does not count.
Yeah, but straight edge would count that.
would they?
Yeah, yeah, they would.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
I haven't
didn't think
actually
it.
encountered that many
I
straight
did
edge
not
people.
think it counted to.
No, here's the thing. I cook with alcohol, especially since I really, really enjoy French cooking, and beef bourguignon is one of my favorite things ever. And beef bourguignon usually calls for, depending on the recipe, between half and an entire bottle of red wine. And when you pour that in to the stewing pot and you let it stew, it cooks off most of the alcohol, but not all of it. There is an inconsequential, undetectable by you when you consume it in a narcotic
Yeah.
effect amount of wine left in, but it's in there. It's the same way
Uh,
kombucha
there's
has like 1% alcohol. It's in there.
there's
I
a
know.
brownie recipe that I have that I really like that uses a shit ton of Kahlua, and they are still like
Sorry,
mildly
you can't
alcoholic.
mention Kahlua. What? without me thinking about, was it your mom who made us drinks?
No, that was me. I'm
Okay, you
responsible
made
for
the
that.
drink. You made the drinks that were like
Pure
Well,
alcohol, yes.
Kel
Um,
didn't know how to make a, what was it?
a
A
mudslide.
mudslide. And
It was basically the mudslide that I made was like 10 times more alcoholic than a real one. Um,
okay.
so it was just like, oh god, I just remember like taking a sip and going, Jesus
was
fuck.
basically alcohol and ice cream.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
you're supposed to like mix like milk and a shot of this and a half a shot of that, and Kel just did like
Just went ice cream, Kahlua, Bailey's, done.
I think vodka too, because mudslides have vodka in them too. So it was
Oh.
just
yeah.
it was like it was I was just sorry. When you said Kahlua, I flashed back to like being like, ooh, I can't wait to enjoy this pleasant sweet drink, and going, oh my god.
This is just pure alcohol.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Spike, for reference, it's supposed to taste like basically like a milkshake with a little alcohol.
Fair enough.
There's also I've had people laugh at me because at parties it's like I go to make a white Russian and they don't have milk and I'm like, well, just use Bailey's, and it's like, so really I've just
Yeah,
combined
3 different alcohols.
3 different alcohols and there is nothing non-alcoholic in this now.
Yeah. Someone says, Spike, can you make an alignment chart for straight edgeness? Your definition sounds like lawful good. Okay, Paul G, who is asking, my definition may be dated because I have not been a weird teenager in a long time, but I heard about straight edge in my late teens, early 20s, and it became very obvious to me that I was not that and would never be that. Straight edge kind of has this vibe again from 20 years ago. Who knows what it's like now? I don't know. And I haven't checked on it in 20 years. So I don't care because I don't care. But they aren't just anti-alcohol and they aren't just refraining from alcohol and refraining from drugs. They are anti-alcohol and anti-drugs, which is like, what do you think you're fucking doing when they see you with a drink, as opposed to no thank you when you are offered a drink. And that's a very important distinction for me. Very important.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a colloquialism, but like back home, it's literally just what you call anyone who abstains, who just doesn't
Yeah.
enjoy drinking.
Yeah. Well, it's more than that for people who take it very seriously. Like there are straight edge bands who write straight edge songs, and some of them move it beyond. They get very American Puritan about it. They move it beyond saying what the fuck do you think you're doing if they see someone drinking or someone smoking. They're anti-sex in a lot of situations. And I have even seen, although I cannot confirm, and I think this may have just been some weird church group crossover, the same way sometimes you see Amish girls out for Rumspringa and they're at like the truck muddin event smoking weed, but they're still wearing their bonnets and their long dresses. They're also anti-cursing. I don't know how big that was, but yeah, they are not minding their own business, has been my experience, particularly about straight edge. And there's a punk angle to them. Jay Brooks is saying in here, there's a punk angle to them that is they go to shows and they get in the pit and they're kicking each other and tackling each other. Like that is straight edge to me.
Yeah.
The X's on the back of the hands at the shows and the X tattoos, that's straight edge.
Bottle song.
Yeah. So that's not me. Like I said, here's the thing. Alcohol is a chemical compound, and that chemical compound does really fascinating things to meat, especially when you cook it. So I have bottles of cooking wine in my fridge. Not my fridge, I'm sorry, my cabinet. And like I said, I like beef bourguignon, and I will pour a fucking half a bottle of wine in there. And they do that because it tastes good. It's an
Well, I
ingredient.
assume that's why.
Yeah, the same way I wouldn't sit down and chug a glass of soy sauce. I wouldn't chug a glass of wine. It's just not my deal.
I'm sorry, I'm
And
staring at my rats.
that's fine. And that's my opinion. And I've always been a square. One of the things I tell people is don't let the mohawk and the pierced face and the all black wardrobe fool you. I'm actually an enormous square.
You're a nerd.
See,
I am.
all I've been thinking about is how, because I watched all of the 12 Kingdoms, and all I've been thinking about is how, oh my god, I would have been, if I had seen that when it was dubbed and distributed when I was a teenager, I would have been obsessed.
You know who I feel that about? I feel that way about Janelle Monáe. If Janelle Monáe had happened when I was 12, I would have been an ugly crying fangirl. Absolutely.
I had that thought while reading the Percy Jackson books. I was like, if I had read these as a kid, I would have been fucking obsessed with them.
Yeah.
Um
You're like,
because Spike, I don't know how much you know about Percy Jackson, but the author wrote the series for his son who is very dyslexic and has ADHD. And as a kid who is also dyslexic, I barely read as a kid because I just was like, this is too much effort and things aren't moving fast enough for me to be rewarded for the vast amount of effort I'm putting into this. So I'm
uh-huh.
gonna go watch TV instead. The example I always give people is I bounced off The Hobbit because they spent too long having breakfast. Like I just like that. I was like, why are they singing about doing the dishes? I thought they were going on an adventure. I am done with this book. Um,
Yeah.
and whereas Percy Jackson, like I listened to the audiobook a couple of years ago and it's like this is um clearly a children's book, so I'm not super into it as an adult. Like it is very straightforward and simple. But if I had read this when I was like 8 or 10, I would have been fucking all about it. And it is very clearly written for a kid who is dyslexic because it's like fight happens, teeny bit of exposition, fight happens, like something exciting happens like every 3 pages. Um,
That's
and
cool.
there's just enough like mythology stuff to like scratch like what I wanted from books at that age. Like I would have been all about Percy Jackson and gargoyles
Yeah,
if they had come out at the same time. But yeah.
when I was, younger, what I was reading wasn't so much novels as I had one of those families that they went out and they bought somebody's entire collection of National Geographic at some point and just put it in the basement. And I would
Mhm.
go down and I would read old National Geographics. And my dad is a
I
doctor and he kept his books from med school and I would read those too. So
I I would look at the pictures of National Geographics. I would not read them. Um
I remember
uh
really well there was a issue of National Geographic that had a hologram, excuse me, on the cover of what I now recognize as Tong Child's skull. And I
mhm.
remember really liking that one. That one was my favorite.
I read a lot of zoo books as a kid. That was the one thing I read as a kid.
God, I
Zoo
think
Yeah.
I
books.
read like everything. Like, I remember sitting and reading like medical magazines and getting really freaked out,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
comic books, and really boring old, like, I don't know how to describe them. I'm not good at, I don't know a lot of stuff, but it's kind of like really, really, really old pulp, like Victorian pulpy stuff. Does that make sense?
Like Penny
Yeah.
Dreadfuls?
Not about crime.
Oh, okay.
But
About
like adventure
orphans.
books, like Swiss Family Robinson and shit like
Yeah.
that.
But
Oh, okay.
like like less well known, because that's just what my grandpa had. So I
Yeah.
read a lot of
Yeah.
those. Here's the thing, I didn't like any of the shit I was reading.
It was just
I just
Uh
compulsively read. So I
yeah.
would read the most boring shit, but I
no.
didn't care.
I tell people like I didn't read as a kid, but I did watch all of television. So if
Yeah.
you are the same age as me and remember an obscure show that only had like one season and you feel like no one else saw it, I probably saw it because I watched far too much television. I have been the only other person in the room when that remembers that 80s show when someone brings it up.
Hey,
I like just yeah.
here's one. I don't know if you're all old. Like everyone in this room is a little younger than me, so I don't know if this is going to have the same vibe check. Did y'all have those Time Life book collections of the paranormal and true crime?
No.
Oh, okay. So there was this okay, anyone who's like in their 40s right now, they're going to immediately like start pointing at the screen and screaming because
Well,
they're going to
here's the thing. I
there used
don't know because again, I didn't have any books. I read the books of old people.
yeah,
So
well, they might have had it because here's what I'm talking about. If you go on YouTube and you search Time Life book commercials, you'll see them. Time Life used to put out
I gotta
these
look this up.
hardbound black books that were collections of
Oh, were they
on
all?
one specific topic. And the
Oh,
two collections that my parents somehow had, I don't know why, were the paranormal and true crime. And the true crime collections are where I learned about Ken Rex McElroy, and I learned about him so young because I learned about him young and because I sort of sealed his name in my brain when I was really young before I knew how you pronounced his last name.
did they make
For the
some of those
longest
about
time
like the Old West and settled?
yeah,
Okay,
they
then my grandpa had those and I read them.
yeah. I pronounced it Kenrex McElroy instead of Kenrex McElroy because that was I didn't know how to pronounce it. I was just reading it. And I think that's a common experience for kids who read a lot but don't have a lot of friends. They don't have a chance to say words out loud to people. So they mispronounce words they read a lot because they never hear them said. But the thing that stuck with me from the Time Life True Crime one was the story of Kenrex McElroy, who was I, I mean, he's basically a bully. He was a guy who bullied an entire town. He was a terrible dude who got away with a lot of shit relentlessly. We're talking about theft, cattle rustling, beating the shit out of people, literally shooting a couple of people, abusing every partner he ever had, threatening people. We would call them terroristic threats today. And he was just like a total piece of shit. And at some point, everyone in town, without really agreeing to do it, he showed up in the middle of town in a bar, got drunk per usual. His wife was there at the time. Got as drunk as shit as usual and began being extremely loud and abusive and talking about the next guy he was going to beat up, who was a dude who was a witness to a crime he had committed and had said he's going to testify against him. And Ken Rex was like, no, he's fucking not. I'm going to go over there. I'm going to shoot him. I'm going to shoot his family. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And the whole bar, to hear this book tell it, went real quiet and was just like looking at him. And eventually he got up and he left with his wife and went out to his truck to leave. And the whole bar followed him out to his truck and they all shot him. Like he was shot 10 times by 10 different guns. His wife was not hit. And when the cops showed up, they saw all these bullets in him and they saw the car with all the bullets in them. They're like, okay, wow, what the fuck? Well, this happened in a crowd. So somebody saw something. What'd y'all see? And just everybody who was there went, nothing. Like you didn't see anything. You were standing right here. You were in the bar. You didn't see who followed him out. You didn't see who shot the guns. You saw nothing. And everyone was like, yup. And that was just the end of it right there. The entire town executed their fucking bully. And it's like if you just look up Ken Rex McElroy. I remember because I really like the name Ken Rex. So I like jotted that down mentally to use for a character in the future. It's really fascinating. But yeah, that was one the Time Life True Crime one had that stuff in it, and it also had some like Jeffrey Dahmer stuff in it, I think.
Oh, we had I don't know if it was a Time Life book, but a prized possession. It was one of those. It was not an important book, but it was just important because look, we're related to this person. We had a book about Tom Horn.
Who's
Because,
that?
he is my great 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 something something uncle,
Uh-huh.
and he is famous for being a Pinkerton
Oh, dear.
who was disgraced because he accidentally shot a 13-year-old.
Pinkertons are trash.
Yes, they are trash. He basically just shot a lot of people for cattle rustling.
Yeah.
And then one day he shot a child.
Yeah, for folks who don't know,
That's my
Pinkerton
family's claim to fame.
yeah, it's like the best way to describe Pinkertons to a modern person is, Blackwater? Imagine that, but cowboys. That's what Pinkertons were. I'm not real. Oh wait, no. I was about to say I'm not related to anybody, but uh, my mother insists we share some kind of connection with Colin Powell, which I don't believe. But yeah.
I know. So he's the only notable relative, and it's sort of like, I can see why we had to, because we had to dig for that one. That wasn't
Uh-huh.
one that was like passed down, like knowledge. That was one we had to dig for, and it was like, oh, I can see why this one wasn't passed down. It's like, okay,
Yeah, it's embarrassing.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
But aside from that, my dad's side of the family was mostly Czechoslovakian immigrants who, as I mentioned before, have a historically important graveyard that I'm not allowed to be buried in, which is fine by me.
I know, right? Like who gives a shit,
Yeah.
right?
And then my mom's side, my mom's mom's side is mostly people who had land in England and they came to America because they did not want to pay taxes to the Queen, so they just forfeited all their land and said, "Screw it, we're going to America."
Mm.
That's
Well,
all I know.
being Black and American, it's pretty easy to guess where I'm from. But I also have Jamaican ancestry, maternal ancestry. My mother is literally from a little town in Jamaica called Christiana. And I did a 23andMe a while back. And simply because of the demographics, or so I'm told, of the people who use 23andMe, and because my grandfather is white, a lot of people are popping up on 23andMe as distantly related to me who are not Black. And I am sort of inarguably Black. You look at me and you see a Black person. Like, no one would dispute
What?
that. So, shut up. So, I kind of get a slight thrill every now and again because when I check my 23andMe sort of like inbox, there'll be someone in there who's all like, hello? Because I was like, hey, a new cousin has shown up and it's just my Black ass. Like, sitting there looking at them.
Can you disable that?
I think you can. I don't let
Okay.
them. I
I've
don't let
thought
them.
about doing one for me out of just a
Yeah.
morbid curiosity. I was like, I want to know what flavor of white I am.
Yeah.
But like, I don't want nobody coming.
Yeah. And I love 23andMe because of all the little details and
Like, if
shit
I'm
they can
gonna
do.
give the Mormons my information,
Yeah.
I would at least want no relatives to be able to find me.
Yeah. They
My little brother did it, so I'm not gonna bother. I was like, it's
Yeah.
probably close enough. So
Yeah, close enough is definitely it. But yeah,
And then you
it's
find out you're a changeling.
yeah,
actually there are real stories out there of people using 23andMe and finding long lost families. Like Amanda, you've talked about how your grandpa had a secret second family.
Now it's
There
a
are
public second family.
yeah, there are stories of
We
people
send Christmas cards.
getting in that situation themselves because of 23andMe. Because a lot of the people you're going to, they call it connect with on there, like when they find a genetic relationship, a lot of the people you're going to connect with on there are things like fourth cousin, 3 times removed. You're like, oh, that's interesting. But every once in a while, you'll find someone who's like half brother. It's like, what? Fucking excuse me? And then there's a lot of cases of people finding out that who they thought was their biological father is not in fact their biological father. And there is also a very prominent case, I believe a documentary was made on one of the streaming sites about someone who did 23andMe and they found a shit ton of half siblings. And it turns out that the fertility doctor that their
Oh
parents went
yeah, that
to,
one, yeah.
instead of using the sperm of the man they thought was their biological father, he had just been using his own sperm for
yeah.
decades. And he had something like 80 kids out there. And there are people who are all like, I stopped counting how many half siblings popped up on 23andMe because there's just too many at this point. And he got in a
Mhm.
shit ton of trouble for it because not because he used his own sperm. In that particular state, it wasn't illegal to use your own sperm as a fertility doctor. What was illegal was the times he used his own sperm and told the couple he was using the sperm of the man involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking wild.
Um, I I knew about that because like multiple TV shows used it as a plot point at the same time. So
Yeah.
it was very
The
clearly
headline.
like
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was a headline and the writers room went, "We can use that."
Yeah. I remember reading about it and just the guy's defense was there's no law against using my own sperm.
It's
And when I told
the
people I was using the sperm of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Ivy League graduate, I was telling the truth. That's what I
yeah,
am.
um, they're, it's because I watch too much TV.
Uh-huh.
There are definitely a few times where I learned about a headline like a year later because several TV shows used it as a plot line.
Yeah.
Um, because like Seinfeld and the Golden Girls around the same time made a plot about someone possibly getting molested by their dentist.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was like, that's too weird of a thing for two separate sitcoms to come up with like a storyline about it. And
Yeah.
sure enough, like a year before, a case where a dentist was molesting his patients
I
while they were
agree.
under
That is not a fun fact.
Yeah.
um it's it is one of those things where it's like this is clearly like a headline like
Yeah.
hit the news like while they were in production and they're like, well, we got to put this in the show.
Yeah, Law& and Order is probably the worst offender for that ripped from the headlines shit.
CSI.
You think
All the
CSI too?
CSIs, all of them.
Yeah, I just remember, there was kind of a 10-month gap between it showing up in Law& and Order and it actually happening in real life, and I remember there were times I'd read the news and it'd be like, "Gamer couple allows real infant to starve to devote more time to MMO baby." I remember thinking, "That's
Mhm.
gonna be on Law& and Order in a year," and it sure as shit was. And it was written by somebody who clearly had never played a video game in their life.
Oh god, I fucking
uh
hate slash love the ones where they're like, oh god, like when they're like doing things like trying to like investigate Second Life or something, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh, like,
so
oh, the
clueless.
way they present it, it's just like, oh, here's a secret club. It's like it's a secret. You so proud.
Yeah, I remember the gamer couple who starved their infant when they were being interrogated. It's just the guy, I'll never recover from this, I'm traumatized by the moment. The guy, when the cops were like, "Hey, just so you know, your baby's dead." He goes, "Whoa, what? No, wait, pause the game. What are you saying?" It's like, "Oh my fucking god, you could at least talk to somebody who has ever played a video game in their life
I mean,
before writing
well,
the
to
dialogue."
be fair, if you're someone who's so invested in games that you let a baby starve to death, maybe you do talk like that.
I have never heard anyone say that shit out loud, and we now live in a culture where people say T he XD out loud. It was so fucking embarrassing at the time. Like, oh Jesus, this is for boomers. What the fuck?
um, I do think it's funny. I do appreciate it when someone takes a real internet thing and actually uses it well in a storyline.
Hmm.
Um, like I was watching the Elementary, the American Sherlock procedural, and basically instead of doing random homeless kids are the Sherlock Holmes's uh network of information. Their Sherlock Holmes basically uses anonymous to get random info. Um, and they always ask him to do like completely ridiculous things because like they want to like humiliate him. So, but he doesn't care, and so there were frequently like throughout the show he would be like in a dress singing some pop song, and there and Watson would be like, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, the internet children, they want me to do this for some reason." Like it's very clear that it's like trolls attempting to humiliate him, but he literally does not care.
Yeah. Huh, okay. Yeah, I've never seen an episode of Elementary, so.
Um it's fun if you like crime procedurals and want like something in the
I
background while
sat
you're
in on
doing
a
something else.
single episode. In fact, it was on the TV when I was sitting when had to break down my computer before my move, so I was typing in the kitchen, and it was apparently a part. It was very corny. There was lots of drama.
Yeah.
Something about a character's dad being evil. I don't know. I just was like, okay.
Oh, there's a part where he thinks his dad might be a part of some secret, super powerful crime syndicate, and it turns out his dad's just an asshole. Like the evil crime syndicate is trying to recruit his dad because they're like, this is a guy that would probably be a good member of our ultra wealthy crime syndicate, but he's just a jerk.
The closest I come to watching TV these days, if I'm gonna be real, is if it's not a streaming site, it's watching YouTubers fucking like go into nostalgia comas over shit they saw on Nicktoons 10 years ago. Because I came from a family where my parents just like refused to get cable until we turned 18. So a lot of people my age or close have all these really nostalgic memories for, Nicktoons from my childhood or whatever. And I don't have that because I only had network TV until well past, 18. And as a result, I'm just sort of like, "Oh, okay, I guess this is what everyone's talking about. I guess I'll watch it." And also, I'm just old enough so that I miss the advent of a lot of things people treasure dearly, like SpongeBob. SpongeBob didn't start airing until well after I gave a shit what cartoons Nickelodeon was airing. And SpongeBob has been on the air for 20 plus years or something like that, I think, at this point. And
Yeah.
you'll find a lot of people just sort of like talking about the various stages of SpongeBob and the subtleties between the character design between seasons and this, that, and the other. And I'm all like, you know what? I'll put you on in the background. You can talk about SpongeBob for 2 hours.
See, I don't ever watch any of that, but I tend to know, like, okay, like, I tend to know, okay, I had a similar experience to this whoever this YouTuber is, based on like what they use as their joke, like cutaway memes and stuff. Like, there's so many that like will use The Simpsons, and I'm like, this is why I never know what you're talking about. And it's the ones who always make SpongeBob references, and I'm like, this is why I understand what you're talking about. Yeah. We are the same because I know all the SpongeBob references. In fact, that's how I made a friend when I worked waited tables. Is we bonded over the best time to wear a striped sweater.
I know multiple people have made videos about drama in the Sherlock fandom.
Oh my god.
But what is baffling to me is that no one has made, at least no one that I follow. So if people in the chat know someone who did make a good video on this topic, there was like the first year that Elementary aired, Sherlock fans fucking hated it. Like, you simply saying that you liked Elementary and like you would get ripped apart online. And I would love it if there was a YouTuber who made a video that summed up that conflict well. Because I like saw periphery of it since I had watched both shows. But I don't really post that much online or engage in fandom a lot. So like I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but it was just like I just seeing bits and pieces of like viciousness between the two fandoms in ways that were just nonsense.
Yeah, I recently stumbled across a YouTuber who gets a lot of fucking mileage out of I can't even call them micro fandoms because apparently they're quite large fandoms that I wasn't even aware fucking existed. And they have these years and years of horrific scandal. Like, I just saw a video that was about the Friday Night Funkin' fandom of all
I know
things.
who you're talking
Yeah,
about. Turkey Tom?
Yeah, Turkey Tom. And I saw I saw the thumbnail and I was all like, what could the Friday Night Funkin' fandom possibly do?
Oh, I'm afraid
So
I'm afraid I got exposed to that before I even saw that video.
Yeah,
So,
and for
ooh,
folks
I haven't seen the video yet, but I know you were in for a trip.
yeah, for folks who don't know, there was a game and it started on Newgrounds, and if you know about Dance Dance Revolution, you know about the interface. That's kind of what the interface is, but the game is just a rap battle that you Dance Dance
It's a rhythm
Revolution
game.
on yeah,
mhm.
it's a rhythm game on a number pad, and you line up the songs to it, and you are rewarded with little animated characters singing along as you tap the arrows. And its premise is incredibly basic. But one of the things about it that makes it really popular is it's super duper easy to mod because you just throw in a song, you throw in a character that doesn't really have to do anything except move 4 or 5 different ways, and it's not particularly difficult to do that even if your skill set's pretty low. And if you are willing to do sort of like fan stuff, like if you're willing to mod in creepypasta Mickey Mouse or creepypasta Sonic the Hedgehog, you can
You have made child bait.
and suddenly you are a 14-year-old with 50,000 followers on
Yep.
Instagram or something like that. And
Please
they do
link me
not
to this
handle it
video.
well. They just do not
Uh,
handle it well.
Please link me to this
Okay,
video
I
because
will
I
grab
would
it.
love to watch it later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the Sherlock versus Elementary fandom is like the one big thing that Elementary did to distinguish itself from Sherlock, since they were airing at the same time, is they had Lucy Liu play Joan Watson rather than John Watson.
Mhm.
So that was their big thing. It's Watson's a lady in this version. And so a lot of Sherlock fans being like, this is blatant homophobia. And like, yeah. Um, and just like, and then since it's Lucy Liu playing Joan Watson, it's you have like the Elementary fans being like, you're racist because you don't
Oh,
like an
oh,
Asian lady playing Watson. Like it's
oh.
just like the claws came out on both sides.
It sounds positively fucking exhausting.
Yeah. Um
I absolutely believe it though. Yeah, the Friday Night Funkin' stuff, it's just there's a lot, and I'm not gonna sit here and pretend like all of it is bullshit. Like some of it is just genuinely just like,
Well,
what are you fucking
I
thinking?
think it's going to happen anywhere where you have a medium that is accessible by young people and attracts young people. It's just how it is. It happened in Minecraft, Roblox, anything
Yeah,
you can think of.
with a strong kitty contingent, I guess is the word.
Yeah, there's always going to be
oh,
adults who decide, kids who like get in over their head, like I am now famous on the internet, and also
I
adults who sneak
recently
into
oh
that.
I recently had the dream MSP like explained to me, like, and this like there were levels to that I did not know were going on. I
Mm.
did not know that a lot of it was a Hamilton fanfic.
Oh God, remember Hamilton? And I say this as a person who enjoys it. Remember like the height of Hamilton fandom?
No.
Because
uh
no,
I was just talking to Iris and Nero yesterday about transbinder Jefferson
fuck,
like
that's
drawing.
exactly
That
where I
was
was going. Oh my
yeah.
God, that's exactly where I was going. I still see that floating around. For folks that don't know,
I think
children
everybody knows that one.
yeah, children are children. And there is I guess a character sheet of a fan Thomas Jefferson that is just
It was for their AU.
so
But
wildly
yeah.
unhinged, so wildly unhinged. And it has seared itself into my brain. And it's just like, oh God, oh, you're like 14, aren't you? Oh, honey. It's yeah, wow, it's some stuff. It's some stuff.
See, I always just
Uh,
comfort myself with this is kids playing in a
Oh, for
sandbox.
sure.
This is just a
For
kid
sure.
playing in a sandbox. Frankly, I did worse.
Yeah, exactly. There's actually there's a thing that I kind of feel bad for this person. About the Friday Night Funkin' thing, there is a person who she was very unclear about her age, but one of the things that was clear was she was very young. We're talking 12 possibly. And she had she had a lot of creative drive for a 12-year-old. I won't say it's good creative drive, but it was there. And she made up a fan character, as the children are wont to do for Friday Night Funkin', and she named her fan character Sky. And she decided Sky was like a super fan of the main character, Friday Night Funkin', who has no name and is just a boyfriend. That's just who he is. He's boyfriend. And boyfriend has girlfriend, who is kind of like the reason the game is happening. You're trying to impress girlfriend with your sweet freestyles.
Rap
And
battles.
yeah, your rap battles. And
You gotta battle her parents.
yeah, who are apparently Satan. Her
Yeah.
parents are literally Satan. But you wouldn't know it by looking at her, but her parents are Satan. But
I mean,
this
same.
yeah, this 12-year-old made her fan character be a super fan of boyfriend and hate the
Oh,
guts
hello,
of
Evan.
girlfriend. Hi, Evan. And hate
Hi,
the guts
Evan.
of girlfriend and decide that the thing to do was to upload an incredibly crude MS Paint animation is generous, but let's call it that, where
You are describing a
she
tale as old as time.
yeah, she murders girlfriend because girlfriend is standing between her and boyfriend. This is not unusual. What ended up being unusual is the amount of attention this caught in the fandom and the fact that a person who was an adept modder decided to, I believe in his words, embrace the cringe and actually put together a really well done mod pack for Friday Night Funkin' featuring Sky battling a boyfriend while a literally crucified girlfriend hangs in the background, bopping along to the rap battle. And the rigmarole that went on from there, it's like Sky is now kind of like this open source fandom character. And it's there's so much. There's like versions of her and shit got weird when everyone figured out that this was made by a 12-year-old because there'd been like a ton of smut drawn of the character and everyone was assuming it was like a self-insert. And so that's morally gray as shit. And there's just a lot. There's just a lot.
Yeah. There's a whole
Yeah.
video about it. Go
Yeah.
watch it. I don't want to
Go
talk
watch it.
about it. No,
But
Friday Night Funk, Jay Brooks said it's like Parappa the Rapper for new. It's not really at all like Parappa the Rapper because it's much more. Here's the thing. This is why Friday Night Funkin' is good. It is honestly a very, very basic rhythm game. It's just
Yeah.
4 arrows, and it's mostly reflex and speed based. What makes it good is it's just simple and it's well executed. That's it. It's simple, well executed, and it has a simple interface, cute characters, and
Very
the
accessible.
Vocaloid kind of style of vocalizations they do. That's it. It's not reinventing the wheel. I think Parappa the Rapper is more interesting in terms of
Yeah,
gameplay.
I would have to. I say this as a person who has not actually played any, but I've watched a few playthroughs just to sort of like try and figure out what was going on. Yeah, it's Parappa the Rapper takes more risks and is more generally interesting. Friday Night Funkin' is a vehicle for fan art in a lot of cases. It feels like.
No, again, it really did. It started out as a game.
Yeah.
It's like someone said, "Oh, everyone likes playing OSU. I'll do a dance game that's basically the same kind of thing."
Yeah, it's extremely popular,
So
and
you want to
extremely
play?
popular.
Guess what? We're not doing 2 buttons anymore. We're doing 4.
Yeah, it's also extremely popular among children, but like that kind of this Turkey Tom guy we're talking about, by the way, he has a whole fucking series of videos like, "Hey, this child's fandom, it's a cesspit. Let me
But
do."
you do have to be careful with his videos. He used to be kind of shitty.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, no offense, but it's commentary YouTube, so
I'm saying
not.
this isn't for
Yeah.
you, Spike.
Yeah,
We are talking about him, and I'm saying this for the benefit of anyone who's like,
yeah.
I'm gonna go dig through his archives.
Yeah, speaking of which, I had a recent experience where I was following someone and I really liked them. And then I began seeing this weird rumbling around the edge of them. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I went and looked at their Twitter and I was like, oh, because they have apparently dropped off the face of the earth. There was an animator I thought was extremely funny. And I think I might still be subscribed to them. I don't know. But they went by Squizzy. And
Oh
they,
yeah, that's old news. Yeah.
my brother is in the chat and said he had to warn a couple of parents of kids in his class about this game.
yeah. Yeah, but Squizzy draws themselves as a I'm assuming it's a fennec fox, but it's like a square, and they did very funny animations, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool," and I subscribed, and then I began noticing commentary about them that was very sort of talking around the subject, and apparently, like, starting last year, they were accusing someone of being an abuser, and then it sort of
Yeah, it's a whole
snowballed into
thing.
them
Not
being
fun to talk
revealed.
about.
Yeah, but it was just sort of wild because I follow them on YouTube and I was fully unaware of it. So,
Oh yeah, that's the thing. It's like when you're just casually following things, you will never get exposed to that shit.
yeah, yeah, it's interesting though. Yeah, but yeah, commentary on YouTube is here's the thing that's fascinating to me about commentary YouTube on just a general level. So, if you are in that ecosystem, you literally need drama to happen to pay your bills if you are a full-time YouTuber.
It's
You can't just have a quiet month where nobody's a mess
see
because you need to keep the lights
see
on.
my favorite commentary YouTubers
Mhm.
very clearly when there is nothing to talk about, they find something to talk about. Like some of my
Yeah.
favorites, I think Danny Gonzalez and Drew Gooden, for example, will
Uh-huh.
just go, I've decided to try to apply to kids' bops.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
that requires
I
creativity.
That's what I'm saying. Like those are my favorites. Like
yeah,
they
I
when the drama does
I
not
love,
giveth. Oh, go.
I love Drew Gooden's running series now of he just bought random shit off Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how much he
That's
hates the moon pod. His
Yeah.
enemy is
yeah.
the moon pod. Fuck the moon pod. All my homies hate the moon pod.
But yeah, there's a there are creative commentary YouTubers. There are YouTubers who go, "Let's just go to every rainforest cafe in North America. Let's just fucking do it." And the fun
Uh,
is just seeing them do that. Like, but at the
I love the thing I love about the "Let's go to every rainforest cafe" is both of those guys on that road trip
Different
did that video,
perspectives.
and
yeah,
it is different perspectives on this journey they went on.
yeah.
Um,
But what I was gonna say is every once in a while, the commentary community will devour one of its own incredibly messily. And the best comparison I have is adult male lions all hate one another unless they're siblings for, natural selection reasons and genetic imperative reasons. And there was a nature documentary where 3 brothers, 3 siblings, 3 male siblings decided to enter a territory of an older lone lion and try and take his pride from him. And they basically harassed him across the veldt for multiple days to exhaustion. And then when they finally got him to fall over and there was almost no fight left in him, they proceeded to literally eat him alive. And I still think about that nature documentary whenever I see some commentary video about a commentary
I think
person.
you were the person who linked me to that one vegan YouTuber that got caught eating meat
Yeah,
in public.
yeah,
Um, and that's always the thing that I think about is the vegan YouTuber who's talking about how like veganism is so much healthier for you, but like
yeah, eats fish
the
and
version that she was promoting like gave her
anemia.
multiple vitamin deficiencies and anemia,
Yeah,
and so she had to eat
See,
meat again.
this is why I don't watch drama tubers anymore. I just don't care because the constant need for drama to sustain them
mhm,
means that frequently their videos just aren't that interesting, and I'm kind of like, okay, I don't care. Here's the thing: I don't care that people are messy
and
because
mountains out of molehills are a big thing with them too.
Yeah,
there's messes in every industry. I don't
Oh,
care
for
that
sure.
people are messy. Uh, As I only care that whoever is doing the video is genuinely interested in what they're talking about.
Yeah, that's fair.
yeah.
There was
I
a Go for it.
I really like to watch video essays that talk about media and politics.
Yeah,
But I have found that when I am starting to get into a new YouTuber that talks about politics, a lot of them just end up having infinite fights with I forget his name, but he is uh basically just does political reaction videos, and they just get in like, this is my reaction to his reaction to his
Oh,
reaction to
that
Oh
my
is
yeah,
reaction.
so
yeah.
boring.
I
That
The
is
don't give
moment
a
I see
so
that
shit.
shit, I'm
boring.
like, goodbye.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, there were multiple people where I was like, "Oh, here's a new person to like check out," and then like 2 months later, they got big enough that this guy did a reaction to them, and it
yeah,
just like I was like, I can't watch your shit if all you're gonna do is argue with this one guy.
See, I
yeah,
like it when the YouTubers when the content creators I watch are a closed ecosystem.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
and what's fascinating is when you see confirmation that they're clearly all in a Discord somewhere,
Oh yeah.
because there is this one guy I really enjoy, and I think if you're not watching
Someday
him,
we're
Amanda,
gonna talk about comics again.
you're missing out. There's a guy who goes by Internet Historian, and he
mhm.
has a bunch of channels, but he has this one channel, I think it might be called Storytime. He represents
Story time
himself.
is a genre.
No, he has a channel called
Right,
Storytime.
but I was just saying, like, there's a lots
Yeah,
of channels called story
yeah,
time.
yeah, I know. But he does these history videos, but he has the most fucking bizarre way of going about them. One of them was about the kind of birth of the national parks cave system and what spurred it on, and it was about, like, I believe this happened in Kentucky. It was like the Kentucky Cave Wars. It was based on a book he read, and he makes this whole, I wanna say
Jay
crude,
Brooks
but it's
says
not.
story mode.
Oh, story mode, yeah. It's he made this whole, and I wanna call it crude, but that's not fair, about a man who went exploring in the subterranean cave system that stretched for miles under the town he lived in, and
Oh, is this
the
the guy
reason
who
he,
got stuck for a really long time?
yeah, and Internet Historian did this whole big video about it. I'm talking about, it's like 40, maybe an hour, 40 minutes, maybe an hour long. And it's fascinating because it's very detail oriented and it's all based in truth. And he does little reenactions. But the people he is doing the reenactions with, and this is where it comes around to, they're all clearly in a Discord together somewhere. They're other YouTubers. So the man who got stuck in the cave and the whole story is about, and it's all about the rigmarole people went through to try and rescue him, has the head of another dude I watch, Wendigoon. So it's very clearly not a portrait of the actual man who went through this. It's
Well,
Wendigoon
I feel yeah.
talking with his head. I'm like, that's a weird way of doing it.
Yeah, I feel that's natural though. I think that's gonna just
Yeah.
gonna
I have
happen.
I have never seen anyone do anything like that.
Oh, all the time I see stuff like that.
Yeah, like
You see
I see
people
YouTube.
No,
telling
no, no.
true life stories of,
I'm talking about
oh.
make it obvious that they talk and have a
Oh, yeah,
Discord.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, sure, for sure. But, yeah, that's very unique what internet is, although they have a channel, the story mode channel that Jay Brooks is talking about is, the one where they basically explain video game plots to you, and I like that one a lot too because 'cause I'm never fucking playing a lot of these games, but I'm curious about the plots. And on that channel, he chooses to represent himself as Mark Zuckerberg. And he is talking to Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or the Queen of England or recently the fucking ghost of the Queen of England. And he's just explaining Resident Evil's plot to her. It's really fucking good.
Um, I started to uh I also like people that explain the plots of video games. I'm never gonna
Yeah,
play the
shit,
game.
yeah.
Um, but
No, thank you.
no, no,
Really?
thank you.
You don't like that?
No,
Uh,
I'm not interested in the
I
plots of video games.
Oh,
I
okay.
It's not something
I
I'm interested in. That's all.
Oh, okay.
I really like Salt Factory going over like, is the game that I played 10 years ago still good? Um and like his whole series of like just revisiting these games that were great, and like got all the praise 10 years ago, like did they still hold up? Basically, how well did they age? um
Uh-huh.
my favorite of which is the 3-hour long video where he goes through the plot of every Pokemon game
Oh my,
and ranks which ones have the best plot and which ones have the worst plot.
huh.
um and
Oh, that is real. I didn't even know Pokemon games had differing plots.
They do. They're very simple plots. Um, the first game, the plot is you fight Team Rocket, who it turned out
Are
made
stealing,
Mewtwo.
also initially stealing Pokemon to
Yeah,
eat them
you you
mostly.
you 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 fight Team Rocket and stop them from stealing Pokemon, but
Well,
also
technically,
uncover
I
the
think
fact
poaching Pokemon.
Poaching.
poaching
Oh,
Pokemon.
Yeah.
poaching.
Like they're stealing other people's Pokemon rather than
Well, no, they are
Going.
poaching. No, there's a
catching them
part.
on their own.
Well, no, there's a part where they're poaching Slowpoke, isn't there?
That's in the second game. In the
Okay,
first
then
game, they're just stealing other people's
I got
Pokemon.
mixed up.
So they're gonna eat
Yeah.
them?
Oh,
Yes.
Pokemon get eaten all the time.
Huh.
Yeah. Farfetch'd, a duck Pokemon that carries around a leek, is which is why it's called Farfetch, because it's a duck carrying around its own like
Seasoning.
garnish.
Huh.
And so it's apparently delicious, and that's why it's rare and hard to find. It's not a very good Pokemon for finding. It's just delicious. Like it says that in the Pokédex, Farfetch delicious.
Wow. Okay.
Because he's a duck. Um,
I mean, to
Oh,
be
it's
he's
fair,
great.
Psyduck is a duck, and
Well, he's not a duck that carries around the veggies you should cook him with.
Yeah. Jay Brooks says, I found a channel a while back that breaks down the history of speedrun strats in specific games. It always starts with, okay, I'll just skip through this, but then it becomes really interesting. It took me ages to give those channels a chance because I just saw them and assumed I wouldn't care. But I recently watched one about speed running a Mario game, and it's so bizarre. It's so fucking bizarre because it's fascinating and talking about like saving several seconds by doing this and saving 3 seconds by that and hitting the sub 25 wall. Like no one could finish this game in less than 25 minutes. And he's like 3/4 of the way through the video and you think it ends there, but then there's a music sting and the line chart he's been showing you of the world record for finishing this Mario game suddenly drops by 7 minutes. It's like dun. It's like what had happened? So and so had posted a time of 23:15. What did he do? How could this be done? It had been 7 years since there was a new route. What happened? And I find myself sitting there watching going, yeah, what happened? How did he save 7 minutes? Was it the Bowser fight? Like you think you don't care, but a lot of the fascination for stuff where you can find documentaries on YouTube is just like how well it's told.
Yeah. Well, Spike, if you would like to know the plot of all the Pokemon games, I would recommend Salt Factory's video.
Okay.
Um, uh, they're like, cause it's 3 hours, but he's going through, I think, like 8 games. Like so, while they're simple-ish plots, he is going through a lot of
That's
games to
fine. I am
explain.
totally good
Yeah,
with longer videos because like I say,
yeah.
I especially if I don't have to look. I'm
It's
really
also
good.
it's also funny because like a lot of these games are ones he hasn't replayed since he was a child. So
Mhm.
like he starts the game, he goes, I remember like so the it came out right before Sword and Shield, which is not the newest Pokemon game. It was the game that came out a couple of years ago. So it's like the second or third newest game, depending on if you count Arceus. Um, anyway, so it was like in preparation for that game coming out 2 years ago. And he gets to the last game he has to review the plot of, and he has not played it since it came out. And he goes, "This is your rival, How. I hate How. I don't remember why I hate How. I just remember that I hate him." And then halfway through, he's like, "Now I remember why I hate How." Um,
Yeah, I was under the impression I haven't watched a lot of Pokemon. Pokemon is one of those things that missed me. I think I've mentioned this before. But
yeah.
uh
no, you missed it.
I missed it. Okay, fair enough. I missed
Because
it.
there are people your age who are super into it.
Yeah, it did not hit with me. It just didn't. But
Mhm.
there seems to be a general model where it's just for some reason in this world 12-year-olds are kicked out and the 12-year-old goes and finds a professor, and the professor gives them a pet.
No, it's 10-year
And
olds. Thank you
sorry,
very
my
much.
mistake. It's even more unreasonable. It's 10-year-olds. And you find the local professor, and the local professor gives you a pet. And the professor seems cool. It's just like giving living creatures away to 10-year-olds who are now homeless. And then you then you
You do
find
not get
a person
kicked out.
as you've known like apparently your whole life who has decided that it's time to be shitty to you. And they pop up throughout the game to be shitty to
Oh
you.
no, they were all in the first one. They were always shitty to you.
Okay, well, they're shitty. They're
Yeah, they're
shitty.
shitty. They're just
And
continuing their shittiness.
then you have like this quest that you're not in school. You don't have a bed to sleep in. You're just going around the world. Maybe if you're lucky, you find a bike, and you're kidnapping animals and training them to dogfight. And everyone's like, "This is normal." And that's a Pokemon game from as far as I know.
Um, what is funny is you get a bike in every game,
Mhm.
but the a thing that the Salt Factory guy comments on is like the how you get the bike, like how jumps you have, what hoops you have to jump through in each game. They get increasingly smaller to you getting a bike. So
Huh.
it's like the first game they're like, well, we need you to deliver this thing on the other side of the world. And if you do that, we'll give you a free bike. And then, like, in the second game, they're like, well, if you ride this bike with our stored logo on it, you can keep the bike. So you're basically getting a free bike in exchange for doing advertising. And
Hmm.
then, and then it's just like, oh, your shoes are dirty. Here's a bike. Um,
As one does, as one does. But yeah,
um,
I
yeah,
occasionally watch Nuzlocke runs, which
yeah.
is it feels like okay, so I watch a
Yeah.
lot of LPs, and one of the LPs
Mhm.
I watch is also Project Zomboid. And there are people who are so good at Project Zomboid, they just make up really ridiculous rules just so the game stays interesting for them. And Nuzlocke
Yeah,
is
and yeah,
interesting rules people have made up.
I watch, a YouTuber, Pokemon Challenges, who claims to be the best Nuzlocker in the world.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know if he has actual stats on that or if he's just dubbed himself that and no one has argued.
Who could
And
challenge him? Yeah.
what he does is he critiques other people's Nuzlocke videos,
Oh god.
on top of doing his own Nuzlocks. And his Nuzlocks is he finds ROMs of Pokemon that are made to be infinitely harder. Like
Mhm.
like someone said, well, the base game is a game for babies.
Uh-huh.
So obviously it's very easy. And it's even very easy um to do a Nuzlocke for the base game. Uh so let's just make it meaner. Like what if the AI was like actually knew about type weaknesses and like gave its Pokemon viable move sets and just stuff like that. So it's really into like the nitty-gritty stats and whatnot. And one of his best videos is about what is supposedly the hardest Pokemon game, Pokemon Emerald Kaizo. It took him 151 tries to successfully beat it,
Yikes.
Oh, I
nuzlocking
can't
it.
watch it.
Yeah. I
Um, his video is a summary of
I
like
know.
what went wrong. Yeah,
I
but yeah,
just that like I was explaining to Kel and some other people the other
yeah,
day that the kind of gamers I watch are people who are not good at the game. They are not trying to be good. They're here to have a good time and
yeah,
possibly break the game on
yeah.
purpose or on accident, and that's what I'm here for. I am not here to watch people play good. I'm here to watch people be
Um,
clowns.
oh god. See,
uh,
I also appreciate the occasional clown. Do you watch Call Me Kevin?
I love Call Me Kevin.
Yeah, that's like kind of the clown level I'm into. I like that on occasion. But Matt could definitely testify that I need my occasional competence fix. I need someone who is
Never.
I get a lot of satisfaction out of watching somebody just fucking snap the game in half over their knee. And
See,
my go-to guy for that is somebody called Cobalt Streak. And Cobalt Streak, I don't know if this is still the case. It has been for years though. He plays a shit ton of Binding of Isaac, and he can destroy that game. He knows all the fucking tricks. He can rip that game in half, and I love watching that.
See, when it comes
Um,
to ripping a game in half, the only things I like in that regard are people who don't know how to play it well, but they know how to break it well. Like,
Uh-huh.
that's why I like Let's Game It Out so much.
Oh, I love Let's Game It
I
Out.
just love going, time to figure out how to just completely break this game.
Ow, my bones.
Uh, like, I
um,
still think the most magical thing was, like, the dog barf spirals in Sims 4.
Oh. See, what I like with him is when he plays Satisfactory and he makes these cannons to launch himself miles across the terrain for like no real good reason.
Oh, nothing he does in any game is for any
Yeah.
real reason,
But
except how just the game. It's almost every single thing is, the game lets me do this. I don't know why it lets me do this. Well, I'm gonna do this, and but 30 minutes later, the game's broken.
yeah.
um, another thing that I've been watching, someone in my chat said Geek Show Nuzlocke, which made me think of this. A new thing is now Pokemon Nuzlocker YouTubers are getting together and they're like racing to
Huh.
see who can beat the first gym
Hmm.
for in these Pokemon games with their Nuzlocke.
Hmm. Okay.
I think why I enjoy watching people around is mostly because due to my history with not having games and now I don't have time for games, like
Mhm.
I want to see people play games the way I would play games.
Yeah.
Because I don't ever try hard. I don't ever do things the right way. I just like to get in there and have a good time and sometimes not even beat the game. So I guess that is the experience that's what I would be doing. I need to watch people playing the game as I would be doing it.
Yeah.
So
That's
that's my comfort, I guess, to watch
yeah.
someone just being a goof.
I think that's why I watch Mr. Streamer or Sam Streamer. He's this guy who plays RimWorld, and he
Yeah,
Yeah,
plays
I
we've talked
love
about
him.
him a
RimWorld.
lot.
Yeah, he plays
Yeah.
RimWorld exactly how I play RimWorld, where he gets super caught up in the characters. And he has running jokes and long-term jokes, and I just absolutely identify with that, with having these games where you have this
I'm
character who is just so
I'm
freaking
very
memorable.
excited about his giant bee woman taking over the world.
Yeah. And he ran like it's like he was reading my fucking mind. He ran a series where it was like Space Egyptian, and it had like the exact same plot as like something I was doing. But the beautiful thing about RimWorld is there's so many fucking mods and everybody's build is so individual. His ended one way and my ended another, even though we were both, asshole comes from another planet to primitive planet, declares themselves pharaoh, uses technology and claims it's magic. Like we both had the exact same premise. But mine ended up with a bunch of like a traveling theater troupe on a giant spaceship, you know, going from planet to planet. And I just loved imagining the bizarreness of, you're living on your planet, you're fucking doing your own thing, you don't care. You're staying in your lane, moisturized, whatever. And then suddenly across the planet, booming across the sky, is just hello. And it's just this giant projection of this woman dressed up as a pharaoh holding a living teddy bear, like a teddy bear sized bear that is also human, just in her arms, like a designer shih tzu, just going, I'm so happy you are going to be here for our summer Shakespeare in the park. We're so excited. And her husband shows up, and her husband is like 15 due to a horrible youth serum accident. And he's just standing next to her, and they're all doing this fucking theater troupe jazz hands thing, 50 feet tall in the sky, visible from every corner of the planet, and how horrific and nightmarish that is. And them going, oh, and while we're here, we'll be murdering every bandit we see. We'll be rendering them down to a slurry to make more pet teddy bears. And it's like,
um,
yeah.
so my current RimWorld run,
Oh
Uh-huh.
God.
I have found out. Oh, fine, we won't talk about
No,
this.
no, it's like no, it's more just like every single time.
Sorry, Amanda.
No,
It's
I think it's
fun.
funny.
It's fun. It's
Well,
funny.
in my current run, I found out how absolutely broken Rim of Magic is.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It's because so I usually start the game with pet wolves. Like rather than random pet, I'm like I want a wolf.
Uh-huh.
Um and because Rim of Magic has dire wolves, I was like, I'll get spicy and I'll have dire wolves instead of regular wolves. They're so broken. They're
Yeah.
absolutely broken. Like every time, like my people don't even have to fight whenever we get attacked.
Mhm.
Like it's just the dire wolves just rip apart any enemy we get, and it's just like, oh well, we were gonna capture them, but you bit their arms and legs off, and so they bled out before we could get to them. Like,
Yeah.
um,
I haven't been playing a ton of RimWorld lately because
you're playing Dwarf
I've
Fortress.
been playing a ton of Dwarf Fortress, which is RimWorld's granddaddy. And again, I feel the need to explain this because I'm not going to assume everybody in here knows. Dwarf Fortress is kind of the great granddaddy of pretty much every big deal colony management game you can think of. So it's it's the foundation, it's the bedrock games like RimWorld and Oxygen Not Included are built up on. And I've been having a lot of fun because it is painfully, agonizingly deep. It is so complex with so many moving parts and really easy to fuck up. I don't know why that appeals to me, but it does. And take an immense amount of pride in the fact I'm still on my very first fortress and it has 100 people living there and it has not spiraled into disaster yet. I'm very proud of that.
Um, I'm really impressed with RimWorld's update. How much better it runs. I
Hmm.
have 20 people in my current colony, and I don't think I've ever had that many people
Oh,
and
wow.
had the frame rate remain intact. Um,
Okay.
like because I usually when I play, it's like you're at 12 people, you need to stop recruiting people now. Um,
How you doing, Amanda? You having fun?
I'm reading some.
Amanda's fucking done with us.
Yeah, I'm just reading.
Sorry. Oh,
Not
okay. Well,
upset.
okay. It's just I know that when we start talking video games, you're like, Jesus Christ.
No, I'm fine. I just don't know what you're talking about, so I read something. That's
Yeah.
all.
oh, another good YouTube that I watched recently is about how Dragon Age is written by cowards. Um,
I have never played a Dragon Age game, so I do not feel qualified to weigh in on that.
they do that thing where here's our oppressed group. Oppressed group, it's very bad that they're oppressed, but also they're really dangerous, you guys. Like,
Okay.
and that's how they like make their fantasy politics have like both sidesism in it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was talking to someone like earlier today. I was talking to Tony, Abby Howard's partner, about how Dragon Age is written by cowards.
Mhm.
Because so the main conflict in the games is you have the mages and the Templars. And the deal with Dragon Age, mages, if you show magic powers, they basically ship you off to magic school, but magic school is also a prison, because the way people get magic powers is they basically have a mind. They can't access stuff from another dimension, which is where demons and spirits live.
Okay.
um, and because they do that, they are more prone to making deals with demons and getting possessed by demons.
Okay.
So it is kind of treated like, so the government of this world is like every mage is just a ticking time bomb to let demons come into our world. So the mages get watched by the Templars, which are the warrior faction of the church, um, and are basically the prison guards of this magical school, and are there to kill any mages that seem like they might be talking to some demons or thinking about running away or really just doing anything wrong. Um,
This feels very Warhammer 40K.
and um, I wouldn't call it Warhammer 40K ish because the rest of the world is less grim dark.
No, 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 I not in that
Oh.
parallel, but, Warhammer 40K has psychers, and psychers are
Mhm.
human beings with a connection to the warp. And the warp
Mhm.
is literally where demons live. And psychers have immense power and they're literally necessary to human society. The only reason humans are capable of interstellar travel is
Is
because
because
of
of them?
is because specifically of the king psyker, the big deal, the emperor of mankind, who
Mhm.
despite being 99.99% dead is still the only way to travel from planet to planet and star to star in the human part of the galaxy. And so psychers can't just be like hunted down and wiped out because number one, the guy they worship as a literal fucking god is a psyker and like the most powerful psyker ever. And psychers are also necessary for various elements of human society. But they're also incredibly dangerous because the warp is where like Nurgle and Slanesh and Korn and all
Mhm.
the horrible, terrible gods dedicated to the literal destruction of all living life live. So dipping into the warp, basically there's always going to be some dude
It
standing over you with a gun pressed against the back of your head while you're doing what you
yeah.
need to do.
So yeah, so the main conflict in the Dragon Age games as a series is mages want more rights, Templars are like, but you're ticking time bombs, so we need to oppress you and maybe genocide you. And you as the main character are supposed to be like, well, both sides have some valid points. And it's like, no, one side is arguing for extermination, and the other would like to exist, and there isn't really a compromise there.
Yeah.
Writers of Dragon Age, um,
Yeah.
and
Where it's all
uh,
like, okay, well, yes, you did get killed in your millions back in the day, but also you were rude on the internet. So really, when you think about it, you've both done bad things.
yeah. So it's basically that. And so the YouTube video that I was watching was talking about how one character is the biggest example of them being cowards when they write, because his story could have been really interesting, but instead it's lame because they're cowards.
Uh-huh.
um, because basically the other thing that the Templars do, I guess to make them more sympathetic, is so they recruit them as teenagers and basically get them hooked on magic steroids. So a Templar, as they get older, if they're like, I don't know about this fascism thing,
Mhm.
they're already hooked on the drugs, so they can't leave, because this is the only way they can get them.
Hmm.
Um,
Interesting aspect.
uh, and so a main character in 3 and one of the romanceable characters in 3 is a guy who was a Templar, and he has been in all 3 games. And in the first game, he is young and okay with oppressing mages because he just saw a bunch of his friends die. Um, in game 2, he is being radicalized to be more of a fascist.
Mhm.
And that blows up in his face in the climax of game 2. And then in game 3, he's like, so that fascism thing was a horrible idea, and I quit the Templars, and now I'm going to try to redeem myself, and also get off magic steroids. So if you romance him, you help him get off drugs, basically.
Oh.
Um, but they're trying to make him have a redemption arc for being a shitty fascist, but no one calls him on being a shitty fascist. There are characters that were in the second game and watched him murder a shit ton of mages, and none of them go, I don't know if I want to hang out with that guy.
Hmm.
They just accept, oh, you say he's good now, well, I guess that's okay then.
Yeah. Okay.
And so that's why the writing is cowards, and also missed opportunity, because if he had to deal with the consequences of being a shitty fascist in the second game, that could have been interesting writing.
Yeah, like I said, I can't comment on any of this. This is
Yeah.
literally the first time I'm hearing about it, but yeah, I get where you're coming from.
So
Yeah, I never played Dragon Age because, quite frankly, it seems to swallow people, and I don't need another game to do that to me.
I don't know.
yeah.
I,
I've never beat him, so I
oh,
enjoyed them a lot. So, but that's me in general. I
yeah,
very seldom finish a game.
okay,
I don't know
yeah,
why. I just
Um,
sometimes I reach a point and go, I've had my fun,
okay.
yeah.
or I get busy.
One of the things that's actually been attracting me lately, because I'm an old fart, I guess, is I downloaded a bunch of Sierra packs from Steam, and Sierra made some of my favorite games as a kid. These are games that, unless you're on itch, you just don't see them very much anymore. These are
Point and
third
clicks.
third person point and clicks. And we're talking King's Quest, Space Quest, Quest for Glory, Police
Mhm.
Quest as well. And for me, the real one, the OG was Quest for Glory, which was also called Heroes Quest for a while. And I have had this sort of perpetual mild itch in the back of my head that wants me to install Quest for Glory 1, 2, and 3 and just run through all of them because I have such good memories. Because this is how nostalgia works. I have such good memories of playing that weird little game as a kid, and if folks don't know, like, when you play this game, you are given sort of this standard issue. There's no customization. This predates customization by a long time. So you're given this one standard guy, but there are 3 builds, and the 3 builds are magician, thief, fighter. And I remember as a child deeply loving the shit out of thief because you were just straight up a fucking thief. You
Mhm.
snuck around at nighttime, literally sneaking, tiptoeing around. You broke into houses, you stole people's belongings, and you fenced them. And it was like what you can do now in a lot of Skyrim, Elder Scrolls games, I guess is what I'm thinking of.
Mhm.
But it was 2D and it was just super fun because you could steal from everyone. It was so fun. And I like part of me wants to go back and be all like that Let's Player you were talking about, Kel. Like, is it still fun? I wonder. Is it still
Mhm.
fun to steal from the centaur who is sweet and was nice to me without fault and sells apples in the town squares? Is it still fun to rob her blind? I wonder.
You monster.
I'm a monster. It's fun. And I also remember there was a I think this was like the first time I got genuinely upset at a game. There is a bit where there's a tavern and you go in the tavern and there are 3 drinks to select from. And one of them is normal beer. I believe one of them is Dragon's Breath, and then there's the one in the middle, which is Troll Sweat. And because this is a Sierra game, if you select Dragon's Breath, that's just an instant death. You just die drinking if you drink Dragon's Breath. But if you drink Troll Sweat, you pass out and you wake up hours later because time passes in the game. You wake up hours later, lying in front of the bar, and you have been stolen from. Either some or all of your money is gone. And I remember being really upset about that as a kid because I drank Troll Sweat and I got robbed. It was
Well, now you know not to drink weird beverages.
yeah, it's great.
Uh, I spent today watching, Abby Howard recently did a stream of her game Scarlet Hollow.
Mhm.
Like they did a whole run, to celebrate
1 year anniversary. Yeah.
the no, because the new, quote unquote episode just came out.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So they did like a run that was all 4 episodes that are out. And they specifically were trying to pick stuff that like people don't pick that often.
Oh, cool.
Um because they as the developers know like that it's there.
But
So
yeah, most people won't pick like the rude dialogue option or whatever.
well, it's one like apparently a lot of people there are 2 characters that hate each other, and people were, is it possible to have both of these characters like you?
Mhm.
Um and they kind of were showing that yes, you can have both of them like you. It makes neither of them super like you, but they
Yeah.
both like you.
Tolerate
Um,
you. Yeah.
well, more like the thing is that you can't romance any of them.
Uh-huh.
So you can be friends with all of them, but if you're being that middle ground person, no one likes you enough to date you.
Fair enough.
Unless when you start the game you pick the trait hot.
Oh,
Um, then everyone can like you and want to date you because you're hot.
shallow. Yeah.
Um, but
Whew,
yeah, it's been fun to watch them play. Um,
that's cool. Okay, folks. We are kind of at the 115-minute mark, and I'm usually happy to keep going, but I have a few things that still need doing tonight. So, what do
yeah,
you say about cutting it off here?
we can cut it off. Then real quick, I'm gonna give you a link to that Pokemon video.
Okay, thank you.
Um, but yeah, we can do our sign offs while I load that up.
Yeah. Everyone, thank you so much for coming. I'm Spike. You can find me on Twitter at iron_spike. You can find me on co-host and pillow fort and what's the other one? The one everyone's talking about. Hive. You can find me on co-host, pillow
I
fort,
mean,
and
probably not
Hive.
Hive. It's not been up for a while.
Oh, it's down. It's
Yeah,
still.
it
I
went down.
literally, I literally wouldn't know because I don't check. But you can find me in all those places, co-host and pillow fort, I guess, as Iron Spike, all one word. Co-host is for my comics about a monster who is a friend with another monster, and random drawings, including smut and sort of general musings about the comics I draw. So if you like that sort of thing, go there. Pillow Fort is for my long format comic about elf Bolsheviks. So if you like that sort of thing, go there. Please follow Iron Circus Comics on Twitter. It's IRONCIRCUSCOMIX. Comics spelled with a mix, MIX, because comics spelled appropriately would not fit. You can also find us on Facebook at Iron Circus Comics, and you can find us on Instagram at Iron Circus. So if you like, ironcircus.com is where our online store is. Please come and say hi.
I'm Kel McDonald. You can find my comics at kelmcdonald.com. If you want us to read the comic that I've been drawing on stream, it's called You're the Chosen One. It's about 23 kids getting the same prophecy dream, telling them they're the chosen one. That is on my Patreon at patreon.com/kelmcdonald. You can also find me on Twitter as Kellhound, spelled like Hellhound with a K. I am also on Instagram and Tumblr and a bunch of other places as Kel McDonald or some variation of that. So just check that out. And I also stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Kel McDonald. I do streams on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays during the Geek Show. And also, Spike and I are going to stream on Christmas. We're gonna play RimWorld and raise money for charity.
Woo!
So if you don't have things to do on Christmas, you can join us while we commit heinous war crimes
Yes, it'll
on
be
the Iron
fun.
Circus YouTube or on my channel, twitch.tv/KelMcDonald.
Yeah, yeah. And while you're here, everyone, please remember to like this stream and subscribe to us.
And yeah, subscribe to both the YouTube and my Twitch. Amanda, where can people find you?
My link's in the description. It's easy. Copy paste it.
That's
Okay.
terrible marketing.
Why? Who cares?
Everyone cares.